Good afternoon. In exactly 100 days, the world's largest sporting event kicks off across North America. The 2026 FIFA World Cup, hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico, promises to be the biggest in history. But as the countdown clock in Mexico City hit triple digits this week, the tournament finds itself shadowed by geopolitical storms, domestic political polarization, and unprecedented logistical challenges. This is a 12-minute deep dive into the complex reality behind the global celebration. We'll examine the numbers, the politics, and the human stories shaping the run-up to the Games. First, let's understand the sheer scale. This is an unprecedented 48-team tournament, expanded from the traditional 32. It will feature 104 matches played across 16 host cities in 3 nations. FIFA projects a staggering 5 million international visitors will descend on North America over the month-long event, generating an estimated $11 billion in direct economic impact. The opening match is scheduled for June 11, 2026, at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, a historic venue that will become the first stadium to host 3 World Cup openers. The final will be played on July 19th at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. But behind these impressive figures lies a web of complications. The global political climate is markedly different from when the hosting rights were awarded in 2018. A brutal immigration crackdown by U.S. President Donald Trump, now in his second term, has strained relations with Mexico and Canada, the very partners in this tri-nation venture. Furthermore, the ongoing war with Iran, following U.S. airstrikes after the death of Ayatollah Khamenei, has cast a pall over international travel and security cooperation. These factors are tarnishing the global image of the United States just as it prepares to welcome the world. Let's break down the visitor projections. Of the estimated 5 million international visitors, FIFA and host city analysts predict the following breakdown. Approximately 2.1 million are expected to originate from Europe, around 1.4 million from Latin America, excluding Mexico, roughly 800,000 from Asia, and another 700,000 from other regions, including Africa and Oceania. These visitors are projected to book over 15 million hotel room nights across the host cities. The average visitor is expected to stay for 18 days and spend approximately $2,200, excluding airfare. However, these projections are now being stress-tested by geopolitical realities. Travel advisories and visa restrictions related to the Iran conflict have created uncertainty. Airlines report a 15% dip in forward bookings to U.S. gateway cities for the tournament period compared to forecasts from 6 months ago. Meanwhile, the Trump administration's Secure Borders Act has implemented stringent visa screening for nationals from over 50 countries, many of them football powerhouses. This has led to a significant backlog. As of March 1st, only 62% of the 1.2 million special event visa applications processed for the World Cup have been approved, a rate 20% lower than for previous mega events. Security is the paramount concern. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has classified the World Cup as a SEAR-1 event, the highest security rating, on par with a presidential inauguration or a Super Bowl. A unified command structure, dubbed Operation Guardian, will involve over 120,000 personnel from federal, state, local, and international agencies. The budget for security operations alone exceeds $4 billion. This includes the deployment of advanced drone surveillance systems, biometric screening at all venues, and a no-fly zone over stadiums on match days. The geopolitical tension adds an immense layer of complexity. Intelligence sharing between the U.S. and some traditional allies has become more fraught, and the threat landscape is considered dynamic and severe. In Mexico City, where the countdown clock now reads 99 days, the mood is a mixture of pride and profound anxiety. The city is spending over $800 million on infrastructure and venue upgrades. The iconic Azteca Stadium has undergone a $500 million renovation, reducing its capacity to a more modern 83,000. A new Line 3 of the city's bus rapid transit system, costing $300 million, is racing to completion. Yet, local businesses are nervous. Pedro Ramirez, president of the Mexico City Hotel Association, states our occupancy projections for June and July have been revised downward from 95% to 78%. The political climate in the north is causing hesitation. We are hearing this directly from tour operators in Europe and South America. The economic stakes are colossal. For the United States, the $11 billion direct impact is just the start. Analysts at Moody's project a total economic boost, including indirect and induced spending, of over $25 billion. It is expected to support over 250,000 job years of employment. Host cities have invested billions in infrastructure. Los Angeles spent $1.5 billion renovating SoFi Stadium and its precinct. Dallas invested $900 million. Kansas City, a surprise host, put in $400 million. These cities are betting on a long-term legacy. However, critics point to the potential for white elephants and debt. A report from the Brookings Institution suggests at least 4 host cities are unlikely to see a positive fiscal return, with public subsidies outweighing long-term tax revenue gains. Now, let's contrast this with the Canadian experience. Canada's host cities, Toronto and Vancouver, present a different picture. Their proximity to the U.S. is a double-edged sword. They benefit from being perceived as more stable and welcoming under the current climate, but they also bear the brunt of redirected travel plans. Vancouver's tourism board reports a 30% surge in accommodation inquiries for the tournament period compared to last year. Canada's more relaxed visa policies for many nations have made it an attractive base. However, this creates a logistical headache. We are preparing for a scenario where fans with tickets to U.S. matches may be based in Vancouver or Toronto, explains Canadian Security Coordinator General Mitchell Leclerc. This means coordinating border crossings for tens of thousands of people on match days, which is an unprecedented challenge. The global football community is watching with unease. The sport has sought to position itself as a unifying force, but the tournament is being pulled into political narratives. Several national federations have expressed private concerns to FIFA about the safety and reception of their fans, particularly those from Muslim-majority nations. There are also calls for protests. A coalition of immigrant rights groups across the 3 host nations is planning Welcome World demonstrations at border points and stadiums to counter the rhetoric of the U.S. administration. FIFA President Gianni Infantino, in a recent statement, pleaded for politics to be set aside. "Football is a force for good, for unity," he said. "We urge all authorities to ensure a safe and festive environment for all." But his words ring hollow to some. Former player and activist Didier Drogba tweeted, "How can we celebrate the beautiful game when the world is so divided? The World Cup should be a bridge, not a backdrop." From a sporting perspective, the expansion to 48 teams has been controversial. It means more matches, but also a dilution of quality in the group stage. The new format features 12 groups of 4 teams, with the top 2 and the 8 best third-place teams advancing to a round of 32. Purists argue it makes the initial phase less competitive. However, it has allowed more nations to dream. Debutantes like Uzbekistan, Oman, and Finland will have their moment on the world's biggest stage. For them, the political clouds are a distant concern. Their focus is purely on the sport. The tournament also sees the return of Italy, who shockingly missed the last 2 editions. Logistically, the tri-nation hosting is a nightmare in terms of travel. The geographic spread is immense. The distance from Vancouver on the west coast to Guadalajara in Mexico is over 4,000 kilometers. A fan following a team could face a carbon footprint nightmare. FIFA has partnered with airlines to offer special tournament pass fares, but climate activists are already criticizing the environmental impact. A study by the University of Zurich estimates the 2026 World Cup will generate over 3.5 million tons of CO2 equivalent, primarily from air travel. That's nearly double the estimated emissions of the 2022 Qatar World Cup. FIFA's carbon neutrality pledge is being viewed with deep skepticism. Back on the ground in the host cities, local communities are grappling with the impending influx. In cities like Philadelphia and Atlanta, housing advocates warn of rent spikes and predatory evictions in the weeks leading up to matches. Several cities have passed temporary ordinances to prevent short-term rental platforms from overwhelming residential neighborhoods, but enforcement remains a question. In Seattle, a coalition of community groups has negotiated a community benefits agreement with the local organizing committee, securing funding for affordable housing and job training in exchange for their support. This model is being watched closely, but is not the norm. As we enter the final 100 days, the to-do list is monumental. Test events at renovated stadiums are ongoing. Volunteer recruitment, targeting over 50,000 people across the 3 nations, is at 80% capacity. The official match ball will be unveiled next month. The draw, held last December, set the compelling group stage fixtures, but the dominant conversations are no longer just about sports. They are about visas, security protocols, protest zones, and geopolitical tension. This World Cup was conceived in a different era, a vision of North American unity and global celebration. It arrives in a world of walls, both physical and political. The beautiful game will go on. The stadiums will be full. The matches will be played. But the 100-day countdown that began in Mexico City this week is ticking down to more than just a tournament. It is counting down to a global test of hospitality, security, and the enduring power of sport to transcend division. The world is watching with hope and with trepidation. Subscribe to Kenya News Update today.